the blood that covers me in the night. Time of Armageddon, we find peace in the light. On the golden streets, we have eternal light. Even in death, JD shine bright. Words from the Bible, techniques of survival. For the present day, Jesus, disciple, represent with your colors. You've been forgiven. Well, I want to thank all of you for watching our podcast the last few weeks. It's just been an incredible time. We've been sharing the story of what God did. I've been calling it Now It Can Be Told, but also just gangster war stories. What God did through the gang outreach starting back in the early 90s, the gang church. I've been documenting all of this, and it's just been incredible. I'm so excited. Today, I have one of my very, very, very good friends for many, many, many years, who's one of those incredible stories. I'm telling you, you're going to be so impacted. You're not going to want to stop watching this. This is powerful. I'm here with my good friend, Marlon, A.k.a Black, and his last name, Cox, C-O-X. He is he's an amazing man, what God has done through him, but where God pulled him from is just incredible. We're going to get into in just a few minutes on how I actually met you. But why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how your life was growing up?
Well, my name is Marlon Cox, and Pastor, before we even start, you saved my life, and it's it's awesome and about time that we were able to tell this story because it is a unbelievable story. You know, some may call it being blessed, luck, but what I do know is that my life would not have been as good as it is now if I didn't meet you. So,
Amen. Thank you,
thank you,
brother.
thank you.
Amen.
So, where should we start?
I think, let's. You're from Carroll City,
Yeah,
my rival territory. I'm from Opalaka.
I don't know if anything's
Yeah,
changed. It's probably still the same.
that's probably still the same, except they don't call it Carroll City anymore.
Oh yes, we're
Now it's
now
Miami
Miami
Gardens.
Gardens.
Yeah. But back in the days it's Carroll City. Carroll City, Opalaka always had beef, and somehow you growing up in that area, I think, near the maybe the Moors there or 67,
Yeah,
57, I don't know, whatever it was. Probably from American Senior High, right?
definitely.
Yep, not our friends.
Go Patriots.
Go Patriots. I got no beef with them anymore. Uh, tell us a little bit about your home life, a little bit about how you started to get caught up in the wrong way.
So when I say home life, I don't think that a young man could have two more committed or dedicated parents than I did, or ask for a better family life
Oh wow.
than I was given. It was just my decision that I wanted to go down the wrong path. Maybe it was around the time NWA came out,
Mm,
pretty influential. Then I think New Jack City put me over the edge.
yeah,
You know, um,
believe it.
and then I decided that I wanted to go down the wrong path. But the amazing thing is that when it did come time to change, everything that my parents instilled in me and taught me was second nature. So,
That's good.
but I can, yes, I was well enunciated while I was on the block. I could talk like I was from the street, and I could speak the Queen's English, but that's because my parents instilled that in me. We weren't allowed to speak in slang in the house. So when it came time and I got the chance to move into corporate America, I was able to speak, but I had to practice and practice and practice because speaking like we did in the street was really the way that we spoke, and it becomes who you are. So you had to train yourself. So I had a very good upbringing, but around the time around junior high, I would say, is I got to go to Lake Stevens.
Yeah,
My older brother Lloyd, he went to Miami Lakes, which I think was a better school.
way better.
I went to I went to Lake Stevens, and in Lake Stevens, I started to meet the wrong people, started skipping school, and by the time I got to high school, it turned into being affiliated with people that were in gangs, and and for me, it aligned with how I felt, you know, and you had some influence. People may have been scared of you, but there were a lot of girls that was also captivating, and I decided that that's the direction that I wanted to go in by the time I was in the ninth grade. And so from, I would say, seventh or eighth grade, I stopped taking yearbook pictures because I knew that back then on America's Most Wanted,
Hmm. Yeah.
they used the yearbook picture to find you. So in my head, that's how I was thinking from like the eighth grade going up to high school.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting because so when I meet you, I know that you were out in the streets. I mean,
Yeah.
literally homeless.
Yes.
And coming from a good family, your family's Jamaican,
Yeah.
and I'm from Cuba. Or my
Yeah.
family's from Cuba, and our parents don't play.
No.
It's like
No. Once you're out, you're
Jamaican,
out.
and
I was out.
very very strict. So I'm sure they taught you properly.
Yeah.
Jamaican parents and Cuban parents, they don't accept disrespect from their kids, right?
Yeah.
And really raise them really well,
Yeah.
and really tough. But how did you become homeless? How did this happen? How did you go from a good family home, saying that your parents, couldn't have given you better parents, and then you're homeless?
When drug dealing goes wrong. Didn't study consumer math in high school, didn't pay attention because you were skipping,
Mm.
didn't learn the principles of business.
Mm.
And I was, I stole money from my family and I used that to start my drug dealing empire. But again, I was undisciplined. I had no discipline. And also I didn't really understand the the ethics or the code of the streets and some lines that you can't cross. But again, I was going down this path, but God had a whole other plan for me. So little by little, He took everything away from me. So I'm selling drugs and I'm down to my last couple $1,000 and decide I'm gonna, re up and I send my brother to pick up the work or whatever. And they busted the house where it was. And then after that, I had no money. So, but what happened immediately after that is I was watching TV and I forgot there was a show on and I had like an out of body experience. And it was a show about angels. And I just cried for 4 or 5 hours. And then the women that owned the house that I rented the efficiency in all came and prayed for me. So this was my first real experience with God. So the next day I woke up and said, God, please send me some more drugs so I can sell.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And that's how it went. And
You hadn't met me yet, I'm
no, I
sure.
have not. I haven't. No, I did. I didn't meet you.
Yeah.
So I lost the efficiency because I couldn't pay for it. So now I'm sleeping in Steve's car, and Steve had a family of mosquitoes living in his car. And every night he would let me sleep in his car. And then we had a friend in Hialeah whose mother was blind. So I go to Hialeah because I can go to the house. She won't know I'm there. But every time, man, she would know I was there. El negro está en la casa. She would always knew I was there. So I would go to the gas station, I remember, and I would beg for 75 cents. So every person that came to the gas station, I'll ask for a quarter, and a quarter. I never asked for more. And I would go and I'd get Cuban bread, con mantequilla, and I'd divide it into breakfast, lunch, and dinner right there on 24 Ave. And one day I go to the house because I think she went to dialysis or something. So I go to my buddy's apartment and I smoke some weed and I pick up the Bible and I decide to read Genesis. And I was mesmerized. I felt that I knew something that no one else knew, how the world was created. Man, I was so amazed. I decided I'm gonna go walking down the street. So I start walking down the street right there on the Ave, and then I run into cocaine. I didn't know him at the time, but he was like, "Yo, Black," and that's how I got the name Black.
Ah.
Cocaine gave it to me,
I didn't know that.
right? Yeah, cocaine
Yeah.
gave me the name Black.
Wow.
So whenever he would see me again, so everyone that's why they started calling me Black. And then out of nowhere, a guy comes up to me and says, "God told me to tell you something," and I'm like, "What?" Because I need to hear something. And he says, "God told me that He's about to change your life.
Mm.
He's going to change your life." And I said, well, I need my life to be changed. But he said, he's going to require one thing of you. And I said, what? I'll do anything at this point. I'm homeless. I ain't got no place to live. The blind woman knows I'm in the house, so what am I going to do? And he said, you need to have so much faith that if you tell that light to turn off, it will turn off. I swear to you, from that day, Mario, I never had a negative thought. Like like I said, my life has to change. And I said, if this is what it's going to take, I'm going to follow this instruction from some stranger off the street. And then, I don't know, about an hour later, a woman comes up to me and says, can I borrow some money? Now, granted, I'm homeless. I ain't got no money. But I did have $20 in my pocket. And something told me to give this woman the last bit of money I had. So I reached into my pocket and I gave her the $20. And I looked at her and said, I may need a favor. This was Sandra.
Sandra?
This was Sandra.
Betancourt?
Sean's mother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think that was her name, right?
We just call her moms.
Yeah,
I know what her real name is.
So I looked at her
She's
and
moms to everybody.
I looked at her and I said, man, I may need a favor. And before I even finished what I needed, what the favor was, she looked at me and said, you need a place to live. I said, how did you know? So this woman allowed me to live in her house with with all her kids. She had a few, and her son was the leader of a gang from Hialeah. And for whatever reason, they allowed me into their home. They allowed me into their gang, not to join their gang, but to participate in their meetings and be around their people, even though I was from a completely different neighborhood.
Yeah, rival again.
Yeah, rival neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And not too long after that, maybe a month later, we're sitting outside smoking some weed, and this champagne Camry comes up, bumping a Wu-Tang instrumental, and dude's wearing a red Scully. And he pulls up, he's like, y'all hungry? And we're like, hell yeah, we're hungry. I don't have no idea who he is, but I'm hungry. So he's like, yeah, I'll be back. And he shows up a couple hours later in this beat up old van. And that's how I met you. You picked up a bunch of gangsters from the Section 8 apartments on 24th Ave.
Mm-hmm.
And then we thought we were going to eat, but he tricked us.
I tricked you.
He tricked us.
I love that. You're bringing back all this.
You tricked us, man. So we show up to Alapata, not the new Alapata, the real Alapata.
The real Alapata.
Right? And there's a bunch of chairs outside, and I didn't realize it, but it was church for gangsters.
Mm-hmm. The gang church, we call it.
It was the gang church.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment changed my life because you said something that I've never forgotten. And you preached about something that I have never forgotten. And it was what I heard that never allowed me to deviate from the path that I knew I needed to go on. You said, today's problems are sufficient in themselves, so why worry about tomorrow? Look at the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap, but yet your heavenly Father God feeds them. And I promise you that I have used that every day in my life, even as an adult. Sometimes when I found myself broke and hungry and people think I have money and I have success and all this other stuff, but I'm struggling. Someone always calls and says, hey, you want to go out to eat? Or, hey, for many years, it was once a year, someone would call, hey, I need to buy a piece of property for $3 million. Took care of all the expenses for the year. Never looked at it, but I swear I've never been hungry since that day. Or I've never lacked faith since you preached that. Ever.
Let me tell you something. Those of you that are watching, we didn't talk about this beforehand. And if you were to ask me just 10 minutes ago before we started how we met, I didn't even remember that story. I thought we met that night that I showed up at the warehouse.
No.
And that you were sleeping on our couch.
No, that
came after.
That came when Mom kicked me out of the house.
Oh, Mom's kicked you out.
Yeah, so
really
the $20 can only go so far, my friend. So that $20 lasted like 6 months.
But Mom's incredible. She keep people there for years.
Oh, I know, man. I wasn't that lucky. I got 6 months That's more than enough. So we go to church, and you take everybody home, but I decided I'm gonna go hide around the corner because I didn't have a place to go. So you threw out some furniture from the church, which means it was really bad furniture because we didn't throw
Kick
anything away.
nothing out.
So
Yeah.
I decide that I'm going to sleep on the sofa outside of the church. And a couple hours later, somebody comes out with a flashlight. Who's there? Who's there? Who's there? Is that you, Black? Is that you? And it was me sleeping on the sofa. And you took me home, and I slept in your house with your kids
Mhm.
and your family, and you had no fear of any danger or anything that I would bring to your family. And for the next, I don't know, 2 months, I was with you every day. And then I never wanted to leave your side. But then you said something. You said, you said Jesus was a shepherd. And you said, or pastors have to be shepherds. They have to teach you, they have to educate you and mind the flock. But then you grow up and you gotta go. I never wanted to leave your side. And then you invited me to Alpha and Omega to share my testimony.
Wow.
And I share my testimony with all these people at the church that obviously was funding the
That was
gang.
was that a banquet
It
that
was
we
like
did?
a little banquet.
Yes.
It was
Okay.
like a little banquet.
Mhm.
And the next day, I'm at the church, and a black Porsche pulls up
Mm.
with a smooth dude, hair slicked back, convertible Porsche in the hood. He drove a Porsche in the hood with no top on. And he picked up me and Manny and said, "You guys gonna come work for me today?" And he paid us $8 an hour to pass out like 10,000 flyers in Coral Gables. And that was the proudest moment of my life because it was honest at that point.
Your first honest job.
It was like my first moment of honesty, and I didn't throw one flyer away. I walked past all these houses, man. Every house got two, three of these things, but I I was so proud to do that. And and walking through those houses in Coral Gables, big, beautiful Spanish Mediterranean homes. Now our office is here in Coral Gables,
Wow.
and get to
Surprised you
drive
didn't
by
end
them
up
every
in.
day.
I'm surprised you didn't end up in prison. Walking around that area back then.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
who is this person? I'm thinking two guys. I don't know
So
which one it is.
in this part
Uh-huh.
of the journey or the story, that was Alejandro Nunez.
Wow. What
And
a man. What a man of God.
man, what a big heart. And believe it or not, shortly after that, they moved me into their house. They lived in on South Miami Avenue, and I lived with them. Lourdes thinks it was for like 6 months.
That's
It
what she told me
was
the other
it
day.
was 6 years.
That's crazy, man.
I lived again off the street. I had gold teeth, and they had two amazing sons. And I was closest to Dax. They were twins. I was closest to Dax, and I swear to you, this guy dressed me in Gucci, Prada, Fendi, things that I didn't know existed. They took me to the first restaurant where we had to use linen, knives and forks. Um, Rosanella's in Brickell. They took me to eat sushi. They took me like they were not ashamed of how I looked. They were not ashamed. They thought that I was a good influence on their kids who grew up affluent
Wow.
and privileged.
Yeah.
And they were the first people that took me into their home, literally. And I emulated aspects of my life after them. And there's no one like Lourdes, and there's no one like Alex.
No, no. I was just with Lourdes. I don't know, maybe less than a month ago. And she was telling me that she's like, yeah, I took Marlon in for 6 months.
She's not good with math.
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't even remember that I didn't even remember that, I go, really? I didn't know he lived with you for 6. Yeah, yeah, for 6 months. It was awesome, whatever. And then I talked to you, and you're like, no, it's more like 6 years. I mean, these were just God put. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we had so much success. God put certain people in this gang outreach that had nothing to do with gangs. That were people that were had great positions. Alejandro
A
was a
lawyer.
lawyer and helped many of my kids open up businesses. He would be the lawyer that would help them, open up all that, and just even with court, going to court, helping the kids, just incredible. Lourdes, man, Lourdes did not care about anything.
No, that's the
Uh,
real gangster right there.
she was a
She
real
did not
gangster.
care. She still doesn't.
She still does it. She's amazing. We were with her just yesterday, actually, in church. And yeah, she would go into the projects, pick up kids, take them to court. The other day, I was mentioning one of the guys, and I didn't even remember that she had anything to do with that. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm the one that took him to get his GED." This was one of the guys that was sent to assassinate me.
Yeah. Dude, I couldn't see, and she bought me glasses. Like, that's just who they were, man. It's just who they were. And in recent history, I've been able to connect with her, and they're just such special people. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, they really don't, man.
They don't. They don't.
They really don't. So you get connected with Lourdes and Alex. Obviously, great role models for you, you
Yeah.
know. And then how do you connect with the Bermeos? I mean, this
So
is
so
yeah.
before they actually moved me into their home, something else happened. So you were invited to do a Bible study.
Oh, that's right.
You were invited
Yes.
to do a Bible study at the home of a family that went to the church,
Mhm.
and it was on a Wednesday. You went. You called me because again, I was with you every day, but you didn't invite me to this first Bible study. So you call me. You're like, I probably didn't have a phone. You probably were at the church.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. You told me that it
Yeah.
went great.
Yeah.
And then you said, you know what? Next Wednesday, you're coming to this house and you're going to share your life, your testimony with these people. And that next Wednesday, so that had to be 1996, October, somewhere around there. I don't remember. Um, to share my life story with this family. I've never left the house since,
I
figuratively.
mean, yeah, you're I mean, you're their son.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to put that. I mean, they
I'm
vacation, you're right there. They're with all the grandkids, and
I am the
it's just
most
incredible. Let's talk about that Bible study because I mean, this is incredible. Here are these business people. Willie and Alex Bermeo.
no, no, Willie and Daisy Bermeo. You said
Wi-
Alex.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Willie and Alex. Yeah, Willie and Daisy Bermeo. I'm sorry, and they're open up their home to this. It's a cell group. It's a church life group. We called them cells back then. And I'll never forget, I was so involved in the gang outreach every day and being out there in the streets. They said, playing Wu Tang and the Scully and picking up people and taking them. My pastor said, you need to kind of get away from that at least one night. You need to like get away because if
Yeah,
not, it's gonna suck you back in.
yeah.
He goes, so there's this life group that I want you to lead every Wednesday night, and you're gonna get around other kinds of people because if you're 7 days a week, we were actually getting people, having people get walked out of gangs, watching, initiations, getting people
Pastor, it took
out
you
of
8 hours to drive everyone home. No one had a
Yeah.
car.
It's
You had to
very true.
pick everyone up and drive them home from Homestead to freaking Miami Gardens.
You're right. You're right. So I didn't have a lot of time. And then we're doing all these Bible studies. We're at the center all the time. And pastor's like, you need a break from that. And getting around other kinds of people is going to be good for your mental health. That's actually
Yeah.
what he told me. And then somehow, I guess I brought you first. And then we started bringing other people
No, I
and
have
other
pictures.
gangsters.
I have pictures. There's Gucci, Psycho,
I don't even remember
all
this.
in Willie Bermeo's kitchen. And if any of you
Serious?
guys know Willie Bermeo and Daisy Bermeo, they had gangsters in their kitchen in
Gangsters.
96.
Yeah.
Real indicted gangsters
And
in
you're
their
talking
kitchen.
about Psycho,
Psycho's brother.
Julio. Psycho, the leader of the gangster disciples.
Yes.
Gucci, the leader of the Latin Kings,
Yes.
arch rivals,
Yes.
inside of their home.
A really nice home.
Yeah, a really nice home in a really nice part of town. Uh, I mean, I don't even know how they allowed that. I don't know
We
people
did
that
not
would.
know what we were doing. I was just along for the ride. I did whatever you did.
They didn't know what they were doing.
None
I
of us
didn't know what I was doing either. None of us knew what we were doing. I mean, this is insane. It's
No, when you think about it, it makes absolutely no sense. Right?
God was doing
God's
something.
perfect plan, because it doesn't make any sense. You had a guy named Psycho over for dinner.
Yeah, and Psycho was Psycho.
He was Psycho. It had no sense.
Yeah, Psycho
So,
was.
so after that, the next week after the Bible study, you get a phone call from Daisy, and she says, I didn't hear the phone call, but we were together,
Mhm.
and you said, and Daisy says, "Hey, would you recommend Marlon, the kid from the Bible study,
Mhm.
for a job?" And I'm sure you said, if I remember correctly, hell yes. I'm tired of feeding him. I'm tired of feeding him. I'm feeding him every day, dude. I'm running out of money.
He needs a job.
He needs a job.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure it did.
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
So the next day, you take me down to Coconut Grove,
Where their offices were.
where their office is. Beautiful building. I
Mhm.
walk in my size 42 pants and goatee. Daisy Bermeo walks out in all her glory, and she's like,
That's funny.
don't worry about anything. Just fill out this application. I know everything. I'm like, you sure?
Wow,
And
I'm just blown away by that, man.
the next day, I get the job. I hope I pass the background check.
Yeah.
I get the job, but my job is the company courier. I don't have a license.
Oh, you don't have a license.
So she gives me the job.
Mhm.
Then I have to go get a license.
Yeah. Did she know you didn't have a license? Or?
Yes, but for whatever reason, they went through with this thing, which makes absolutely no sense. But again, you're talking about people who allowed a guy named Psycho in their house, right? So
Again, they don't make them like that
they
anymore.
don't make 'em
These are special people.
So I pass my driver's test, but I can't drive. They give me their company
But you
car.
crashed our van once. I know you couldn't.
I crashed their van 6 times. I thought they didn't know about it. Man, I spent the first 2 years, I think, basically paying off the guys to fix the car. I was making $6 an hour. I never had any money.
Yeah.
I crashed into a taxi cab. I had to give this guy all my money every
Oh
week.
my Lord.
So they only knew something happened. They didn't know what happened.
Did
But
you ever get better at driving? Do you drive good now or no?
I'm much better than the first
But
3 months.
But still not great.
Yeah, it was like 6 accidents in 3 months. I
Yeah.
was a little nervous. It was my first real job,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you should have been fired the first time.
I
the
should have
second
been
time,
fired,
you know?
but so I'm working there in corporate America, man, and I see Willie. I see the way that he's dressed. I see his importance, his significance, and I said, I don't know how to get here, but I'm just gonna copy him. And I've emulated everything that I do after him. When he walks into a room, you know he's the man because you can feel it, the way he carries himself. So while I was copying him, Daisy was disciplining me. So that's how I learned to speak correctly. I said the word dude to her once.
Dude, to her?
Yes,
Yeah.
I said the word crib to her once. Man, she gave me a pen and pad and said, "You find 8 other ways to call a house a house."
She did that?
Yeah. And I have in that office, I probably have 6 mothers that one day when I get married, they'll all have to be present because they're all my moms. So Daisy was the disciplinarian. There was Dee Dee Portella. Dee Dee fed me every day. She would cook. She's like a gourmet cook. She would cook filet mignon. I couldn't even spell filet mignon, but you knew what it was, right? I remember Bistec from Presidente where you used to take us.
Yeah.
That's it. Dee Dee would cook risotto and all these things and bring it to work and give it to me. And then she would give me her husband's hand-me-down clothes because we're basically the same size because my pants were way too big and I didn't know what size I was. So, and then another woman was in charge of me at work and then Daisy always told me the word no doesn't exist in your vocabulary in this office. And these women used it. They told me to do everything. and I knew that I needed the discipline. So, and I needed the experience, and I needed the guidance, and all of these women molded me. But in the horizon, I was looking at Willie because that's who I wanted to be.
Red is the weather covers me in the night. Time of Armageddon, we find peace in the light. On the golden streets, we have eternal light. Even in death, JD shine bright. Words from the Bible, techniques of survival. For the present day, Jesus, disciple, represent with your colors.